Hello and welcome to our channel. My name is Crystal and I am in front of our little mini grape vineyard here. I'm going to be giving an update on how our grapes are doing. So about a year ago we discovered that we had grapevines on our property when we were clearing out all of this area behind me. We found them growing along the ground and we realized they were grapevines because there were grapes on them and they smelled amazing. I didn't eat them. Steve almost did, but we just couldn't quite bring ourselves to eat something. We were certain they were grapes, but I don't know. It was just a random plant in the woods and we just didn't want to take the risk. We were excited to find that there were grapevines over here. This year we decided to make this little section of our yard a little mini vineyard and trellis up some grapevines in a way that looks nice and will provide us with hopefully some grapes. Knowing that we wanted to grow the grapes that were already here, we ended up buying a couple of different varieties of grapevines from a couple different stores. So we got one variety from Tractor Supply and another variety from Home Depot. One of the two vines from Tractor Supply did okay, and one of the two vines from a Home Depot did okay. So out of the 4 vines that we planted, 2 made it. Now with planting grapevines, we knew that the ones that we were planting this year weren't going to yield us any fruit, but we knew that the ones that were already here were for sure going to give us grapes. They had produced grapes last year, so they would of course produce grapes this year, and we were so excited to have grapes growing on our property. And so after I planted the 4 vines from the stores, I planned a trellis using materials we already had on our property. I used cedar logs and a couple of leftover handy panels and just built, you can see it behind me, just a square trellis for the grapes. And if you want, you can check out that video. I'll put it in a card up here and I'll link it down below in the description as well. Basically, it was a very inexpensive way for me at the time to be able to trellis them up. After I built the frame of the trellis, we laid down some landscape fabric, just extra pieces of landscape fabric we had lying around. So we pieced them together underneath the trellis, and then we put mulch down, and that was just to keep the weeds back so we can keep an eye on the vines themselves and be able to get in there easily to prune and hopefully harvest the grapes easier by having all the weeds out of the way. The next part of the story is that our grapevine started growing. Like I said earlier, 2 of the 4 grapevines that I had planted actually started producing leaves and growing. And then the vines that were already here grew like crazy. There were new vines and tons of leaves and little clusters of baby grapes forming all over this trellis. To think that a year ago at this time we hadn't quite realized that we even had them, and now we are gonna be having grapes added to our property. It was just really exciting to be able to save up a plant that was already here, possibly from the previous owner, but also have something wonderful like grapes growing here on our property. So we were really excited. Did we get any grapes this year? No. The newly planted vines we knew weren't going to be producing anything, so even though 2 of them didn't even grow at all, the 2 that did, we knew we weren't going to be getting anything from them for at least a couple of years. We shouldn't be getting fruit from them. But the established grapevines that were here, that were already producing grapes when we found them last year, we really thought that we would be getting something from this year, so it was a little disappointing. We ran into a problem we dealt with last year. We dealt with them on our bean plants mostly last year and some this year, but the Japanese beetles were awful on our grapevines. They destroyed all of the leaves, all of the little baby clusters of grapes that were growing. We have traps all over, the Japanese beetle traps with the bag. Normally you want to keep those bags at a good distance away from where they are so that they're attracted away from the area that they're attacking. But in this case we decided to put the trap on the trellis because there were so many Japanese beetles. I mean, all the vines were completely covered. We needed to be able to get them into the trap quickly. Steve was actually scooping them off and putting them into the trap. So needless to say, it was a little disappointing not to get grapes because of a bug problem. But we learned, and we will figure out a way to deal with it next year so that that is not a problem. The other issue I dealt with is some sort of copper blight that was forming on the leaves over in this corner here. It didn't spread throughout, but it was similar to like the copper blight I was finding on the cucumbers this year. I was finding it over here on the grape leaves. It was the bugs and then possibly that fungus or whatever that had totally killed our chances of having any grapes this year. So what is our plans for the grapes now? Well, the first plan is to educate ourselves even more. I did already do some research and have learned a few things, but I need to learn even more. One of the websites I found extremely helpful is the Arbor Day website, and I will link the grapes page on the Arbor Day website down below. But I found it really helpful. They were very quick explanations of how to do things. As far as pruning these plants go, we will be pruning them, and I'll probably do it at the same time I do the kiwi vines so I can make a note in my phone. I'm gonna wait for them to pretty much go into dormancy and the leaves are either falling off or done, and I'll just come in and I will prune the vines back. I'm gonna wait to fertilize them until springtime. I did add fertilizer to the new vines that I planted, but I did not fertilize anything else this year, so I think it will be good to give them all a nutritional boost in the springtime. Around the same time I fertilize like the berry plants and the fruit trees that we have on the property. I'll make sure that I fertilize everything that stays in the ground all year round. Here on our homestead, we for sure have a priority list of things because there's always so many things that need to get done that we do have a priority list. So there's certain things that take top priority over other things. And a few of those things this year was getting our chicken coop and chickens established and start getting some eggs. And the other thing was getting these fruit trees over there planted, and we finally got the pear trees in. Getting all of those things planted and established on our property this year was really important to us. The grapes were kind of a add-on. They were kind of a surprise and a bonus, and I really don't know much about them. So next year I am going to be adding protecting the grapevines to the priority list just to keep at least the bugs off of them, and I know birds are a problem. They weren't for us this year because we didn't get any fruit, so they weren't even attracted to over here, but I want to make sure that I protect the vines as much as I can. I've looked into a mesh netting that might prevent bugs from actually going through, but it's totally breathable, and it will also help prevent any other predators from being able to get to the grapes. I'm going to do a little bit more research on that and hopefully find something this winter that I'll be able to put over the top of this trellis next year. So what about winter time? Well, like I said, we're for sure going to be pruning the grapevines back once the plants go dormant. The information that I read on the Arbor Day site did say that after you prune the plants back, to lay the main vines down on the ground and to cover them with snow or mulch or dirt or something. Then in the springtime, pick them back up and put them back onto the trellis. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do that yet or not. I do like to use wood chips and mulch the gardens going into wintertime, so I mean I will have some to be able to maybe lay the main vine down and then mulch it. I haven't decided if I'm going to be doing that or not yet. But even though we didn't get grapes from it, I feel like it was a success. Having the mini vineyard here is still really cool. We learned a lot this year about a variety of different things, and next year hopefully we'll learn even more. If you have any tips, comments, or questions, please let us know in the comments box below. It really helps us out, and it might help out somebody else too. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Bye.